Welcome. I am so glad you could join us on this special evening. The Forbidden Glass of Wine. I am Lady Divine. Welcome back to Sips and Secrets, where one glass opens conversations the world is afraid to have. Here, no topic is too uncomfortable, no question is too embarrassing, and no truth is too forbidden. And tonight, we're pouring honesty into every glass.
Treat me like grace. Hold me gracefully, not just for a fleeting moment, not just passing by. I didn't heal these broken places just to settle for goodbye. Sacred hearts don't beg for love, they recognize what's true. If you can't hold me with intention, then I'm not meant for you.
Welcome, welcome, my beautiful people. Come in, take a seat, pour yourself something that calms your spirit. Whether it's a glass of wine, a cup of tea, a glass of juice, or simply your favorite drink. Tonight, we're opening the Forbidden Glass of Wine. I'm Lady Divine, and this is Sips and Secrets, the place where we don't pretend, we don't judge, we don't shame, we simply talk. The conversations your church whispers about, the conversations families avoid, the conversations couples should have, but don't, because silence has never solved a problem. Tonight, we're talking about something many people are thinking, but very few are brave enough to say aloud. Growing older, dating after 50, sex after menopause, sex after 60, protection, respect, and whether romance still exists once the children are grown and your hair starts turning silver. Some people believe that once you pass 50, your romantic life is over. That desire disappears, that intimacy no longer matters, that older women should simply knit sweaters, babysit grandchildren, and quietly disappear into the background. Well, not in Lady Divine's world, because I know too many women who still feel beautiful, still feel attractive, still feel sensual, still enjoy affection, still enjoy being kissed, still enjoy being held, still enjoy making love. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. God didn't create intimacy with an expiration date. The body changes, the hormones change, the wrinkles appear. The knees may complain every now and then, but the heart still wants to be loved. The soul still wants connection. And for many women, their confidence doesn't begin until 50. Some women spend their 20s raising children, their 30s building careers, their 40s taking care of everybody except themselves. Then one day, the children leave home, the marriage ends, or life simply changes, and suddenly, she finally has time to discover who she is. That's when she buys the red dress. That's when she starts traveling. That's when she starts dancing again. That's when she remembers, I'm still alive. Yet, when she steps back into the dating world, she discovers it isn't the fairy tale she imagined. Instead, she finds confusion, mixed signals, ghosting, players with gray hair, married men pretending to be single, single men pretending to be emotionally available, and men who somehow believe that asking a woman to protect herself is an insult. Now, ladies, can we have an honest conversation? Some mature men still refuse to wear condoms. Some say, I don't like how it feels. Others say, We're too old for that. Some will even laugh and say, "What you afraid of? We can't make babies anymore." Really? Because pregnancy isn't the only consequence of unprotected sex. The truth is, sexually transmitted infections don't check your birth certificate. Viruses don't ask your age. HIV doesn't retire when you retire. Syphilis doesn't care if you have grandchildren. Gonorrhea doesn't care if you own property. And herpes certainly doesn't ask whether you're collecting Social Security. Disease doesn't discriminate. Yet, many mature adults continue taking risks that they would never allow their own children to take. Sometimes out of loneliness, sometimes out of embarrassment, sometimes because they don't want to kill the mood. But let me tell you something, nothing kills the mood like a lifelong diagnosis. Nothing kills romance like discovering someone lied to you. Nothing kills intimacy like realizing respect wasn't invited into the bedroom. You know, people always say the young generation is reckless. But statistics have shown something interesting. Sexually transmitted infections among older adults have increased in many countries over the past decade. Why? Because people are living longer, dating longer, divorcing later in life, using dating apps, traveling, meeting people online, starting second and third relationships. Life has changed, but unfortunately, many people's thinking hasn't. And tonight, we're going to talk about it, not to shame anyone, not to embarrass anyone, but because someone needs to hear this conversation. Maybe it's your mother, maybe it's your father, maybe it's your auntie, maybe it's your uncle, maybe it's you. So, before we open tonight's very first letter, you know Lady Divine has a little tradition. Here on Sips and Secrets, every meaningful conversation begins with a carefully chosen glass of wine. Not because we're encouraging people to drink, but because every wine has its own personality, its own character, its own story, just like people do. Tonight's selection is a bold Cabernet Sauvignon. Why? Because Cabernet doesn't apologize for its strength. It doesn't try to be sweet, just to make everybody comfortable. It has depth, character, complexity, just like a mature woman. Ladies, stop apologizing for growing older. You've earned every laugh line, every gray hair, every lesson, every scar. Experience is attractive, wisdom is attractive, confidence is attractive. Never let society convince you that your value expires with age.
Protection isn't fear. It's wisdom wearing confidence. If you love me, you'll protect me. If you respect me, you'll never question why. Love should feel exciting, not risky. Real intimacy protects peace before passion.
My beautiful people, let's hear from tonight's first writer. Dear Lady Divine, I recently turned 58. I've been divorced for almost 10 years. My children are grown, my grandchildren keep me smiling, and for the first time in a long time, I finally feel like I'm living for me. I still enjoy looking nice. I work out, I take care of myself. I still like dressing up and going out. I still have desires, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But Lady Divine, dating at my age has become exhausting. Most of the men I meet tell me they don't believe in condoms anymore. They say we're too old to worry about that. Some laugh when I ask, Others tell me that if I ask them to wear protection, it means I don't trust them. One even told me that if I loved him enough, I wouldn't ask. Lady Divine, am I asking for too much? Is wanting protection unreasonable? Is respect too much to ask for? Why is it so hard to find a mature man who believes in safe sex, respect, and true intimacy? Signed, an aging diva.
The right love won't rush me. The right love won't pressure me. The right love won't fear. A simple word, protection. Anything less isn't love.
My beautiful sister, first of all, thank you. Thank you for trusting me, because I know that wasn't easy to write. And I know there are thousands of women listening tonight who are nodding their heads. Some are smiling because they've lived it. Some are shaking their heads because they're living it right now. And some men are already rolling their eyes. Good. Stay with me, because tonight, Lady Divine isn't here to attack the men. I'm here to challenge all of us, because healthy relationships require healthy conversations. Now let me answer your very first question. No, you are not asking for too much. You are asking for the bare minimum. Respect, protection, honesty. Those aren't luxury items. Those are the foundation of intimacy. See, some people confuse chemistry with compatibility. They confuse attraction with commitment. They confuse lust with love. Those are not the same thing. A man can desire your body and still not respect your health. A man can compliment your beauty and still gamble with your life. Think about that. If someone truly values you, why would they ask you to take unnecessary risks? Real love protects. Real love listens. Real love respects boundaries. Real love never says, if you loved me, you would prove it. No. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't pressure. Love doesn't guilt trip. That's not love. That's control. And ladies, some of us have become so afraid of being alone that we've started negotiating our standards. Listen carefully. Loneliness can become expensive. Sometimes it costs your peace. Sometimes it costs your confidence. Sometimes it costs your health. Don't let loneliness make decisions your wisdom would never make. Now, gentlemen, come closer, because Lady Divine has something to say to you too. Brothers, if you're over 50 or 60 or 70 and you're still dating, congratulations. Life isn't over. You still deserve companionship. You still deserve romance. You still deserve affection. But understand something. The women you're meeting today are not the same women you dated when you were 25. Many have survived divorce. Some have survived abuse. Some buried husbands. Some beat cancer. Some raised children alone. Some rebuilt their lives from absolutely nothing. These women didn't survive all of that to die because someone didn't want to wear a condom. Let's just be honest. Some of you men will spend $50,000 on a brand new pickup truck. You'll buy chrome wheels, leather seats, insurance, extended warranty. You'll wax it every weekend. You'll tell everyone, take care of your investment. But somehow, you won't protect your own body or hers. Make that make sense. You know, men love saying, I don't trust doctors. But you'll trust a woman you met 3 weeks ago? Really? You'll ask her. So, you clean? Sir, That's not a medical examination. That isn't how infections work. Some infections have no symptoms for years. A person can look perfectly healthy and still unknowingly carry an infection. That's why communication matters, testing matters, protection matters. This isn't about accusing anyone, it's about protecting each other. Because mature love should be wiser love, not riskier love. And ladies, can I lovingly challenge you? Sometimes we ignore the warning signs. We hear a man say, "I don't do condoms," instead of saying, "Well, then we don't do sex." We start negotiating. We say, "Maybe just this once." No, no, no. Never negotiate your health. If a man is offended because you want protection, ask yourself, why? Why would someone become angry? Because you want both of you to stay healthy. Sometimes the reaction tells you everything you need to know. I'll never forget a conversation I had years ago. A gentleman looked at me and said, "Lady Divine, at my age, if I have to wear one of those things, I'd rather stay home." I smiled and I said, "Then maybe home is exactly where you should stay." Because confidence without responsibility is dangerous. You know, one of the biggest lies society tells mature women is that they should be grateful for any man's attention. No, be grateful for peace. Be grateful for respect. Be grateful for someone who makes you laugh. Someone who calls to see if you got home safely. Someone who asks, "How was your doctor's appointment?" Someone who notices when you're quiet. Someone who protects your heart as much as your body. That's intimacy, not just what happens between the sheets. Real intimacy begins long before the bedroom. It's built through trust, conversation, patience, laughter, kindness, and yes, mutual responsibility. Because nothing is sexier than someone who genuinely cares about your well-being. Let's take a little sip, because when we come back, we're going to ask a question that might make some people uncomfortable. Has dating after 50 become harder? Or have our standards finally become higher? And trust me, that's a conversation worth having.
They say we're getting older. I say we're becoming vintage. Time didn't take my beauty. It revealed it. Like a bottle of fine red wine, I only get richer with time. My heart may carry a few scars, but baby, these scars learn how to shine. Never apologize for becoming the woman life intended.
Welcome back. You're listening to Sips and Secrets. I'm your host, Lady Divine. If you're just joining us, tonight's conversation is about dating after 50, about intimacy, protection, respect, and asking ourselves, has dating really become harder, or have we finally become wiser? Now, before we continue, I want every woman listening tonight to hear this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting intimacy. Somewhere along the way, society created this strange idea that once a woman reaches 50, she should stop talking about love, stop talking about desire, stop dressing nicely, stop flirting, stop feeling beautiful, almost as if menopause is supposed to mean the funeral of femininity. Who made that rule? Because I certainly didn't. Ladies, you can have gray hair and still wear red lipstick. You can have grandchildren and still wear high heels. You can attend church on Sunday and still enjoy romance on Friday night. Those things can exist together. Growing older should never mean disappearing. It should mean becoming more comfortable in your own skin. You know, I smile sometimes when I hear people say, "She's too old to be dressing like that." Really? Too old according to who? If she's dressed appropriately, if she feels confident, if she's carrying herself with dignity, leave her alone. She has earned the right to celebrate herself. Some women spent 30 years being wives, being mothers, being caregivers, being everything to everybody else. Now, for the very first time, they're choosing themselves, and suddenly, people have a problem with it. No, celebrate her, because she finally remembered she's still alive. You know what's interesting? Many women don't start dating again until their children are grown, because raising children is a full-time ministry. You're cooking, cleaning, working, helping with homework, taking care of parents, paying bills, making sacrifices. Years pass by. Then one day, the last child moves out. The house becomes quiet, very quiet, almost too quiet. Some women enjoy the peace. Others begin to feel lonely, and loneliness can become dangerous. Not because there's anything wrong with living alone, but because loneliness has a way of convincing us to accept less than we deserve. A lonely heart will sometimes ignore obvious red flags. It will excuse bad behavior. It will lower standards. It will overlook disrespect just to avoid sleeping alone. Ladies, never confuse being alone with being unloved. Those are two completely different things. Being alone can actually be peaceful. Being with the wrong person can be the loneliest place in the world. Some of you listening know exactly what I mean. You shared a bed, but felt completely invisible. You cooked dinner, and nobody thanked you. You cried right beside someone who never even noticed. That is loneliness. Now, gentlemen, I haven't forgotten about you. Life changes for you too. Many mature men are also lonely. Some lost wives. Some went through painful divorces. Some retired and suddenly realized their job had become their identity. Now they're trying to figure out who they are again. Some are scared. Some feel rejected. Some worry they're no longer attractive. Some are struggling with erectile dysfunction, but they're too embarrassed to talk about it. Instead, they joke about it or pretend nothing has changed. Brothers, there is no shame in aging. There is no shame in seeing your doctor. There is no shame in asking questions. There is no shame in saying, "I need help." Real strength is honesty, not pretending everything works perfectly. Because guess what? Women are aging too. They're dealing with menopause, hot flashes, hormonal changes, sleep changes, body changes. So instead of pretending, maybe both sides need a little more grace, a little more patience, and a whole lot more communication. Let me tell you something that made me laugh. Not long ago, a girlfriend of mine called me. She said, "Lady Divine, I met this handsome gentleman." I said, "Girl, tell me everything." She said, "He opened the car door." I said, "Wonderful." "He bought dinner." "Wonderful." "He paid the bill." "Wonderful." "He walked me safely to my car." "Wonderful." Then she got quiet. I knew something was coming. She said, then he whispered, "We don't need a condom at our age." I nearly dropped my wine. I said, "Girl, did he also whisper his medical records?" Because here's the thing, some people think trust is something you create in one evening. No, Trust is earned, not assumed. Real trust takes time. Let's talk about intimacy, because I think many people confuse sex with intimacy. They're related, but they're not identical. Real intimacy is when someone remembers how you take your coffee. It's when they ask, "Did you eat today?" It's when they notice you sound tired. It's when they say, "Text me when you get home." It's when they respect your no without making you feel guilty. That's intimacy. Real intimacy can be sitting on a porch, watching the sunset, holding hands, talking for hours, laughing until your stomach hurts, praying together, cooking together, dancing in the kitchen. That's intimacy too. Sex without emotional safety can leave people feeling emptier than before. But emotional safety makes physical intimacy even more meaningful. So let me ask everyone listening, when was the last time you asked someone, what makes you feel emotionally safe? We ask, what's your favorite food? What kind of music do you like? What car do you drive? But we rarely ask, what hurts you? What scares you? What have you learned from your last relationship? What do you need to feel loved? Maybe those are the conversations we should be having, because compatibility is so much bigger than chemistry. When we come back, we're going deeper. We're going to talk about something many mature adults don't like to admit: the rise of sexually transmitted infections among older adults, why it's happening, and how we can protect ourselves without killing romance. Stay with me, because this next conversation may save someone's life.
Dear mature man, your gray hair should mean gray thinking, real strength protects, real confidence respects, real kings never gamble with a queen's health.
The myths we tell ourselves. Welcome back. Tonight, we're talking about something many people would rather whisper about, or not talk about at all. But here at Sips and Secrets, we believe silence has never protected anyone. Knowledge does. You know, one of the biggest myths I hear from mature adults is this: Lady Divine, we're too old to catch anything. Really? Who told you that? Because viruses didn't get that memo. Diseases don't look at your driver's license. They don't ask if you're retired. They don't care if your youngest child is 40 years old. They simply do what diseases do. And yet, every year, healthcare professionals continue to see sexually transmitted infections among older adults. Not because older people are irresponsible, but because many believe they're no longer at risk. Some think, well, pregnancy isn't possible anymore. That may be true for many women after menopause, but pregnancy is only one concern. Protection isn't only about babies. Protection is also about protecting your future, your health, and your peace of mind. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Can I ask everyone listening something? Why is it that we teach teenagers about safe sex, but we almost never talk to people over 50? Almost like the conversation just disappears. But life doesn't stop at 50. People still date. People remarry. People divorce. People lose spouses. People travel. People meet someone at church, on a cruise, at a family reunion, on Facebook, at the supermarket, or because a friend says, "Girl, I know somebody perfect for you." Life keeps happening. So why should the conversation stop? It shouldn't. Lady Divine's health check. Now, Let's make something very clear. There is absolutely no shame in asking someone, when was the last time you were tested? Matter of fact, I think that's one of the sexiest questions a mature adult can ask. You know why? Because it says, I value myself and I value you. Imagine if instead of becoming offended, someone smiled and said, you know what? I'm glad you asked. Let's both get tested. Now that's attractive. That tells me we're building something based on honesty, not assumptions, because assumptions can become very expensive. The false idea of looking clean. Can we retire another phrase tonight? She looks clean. He looks healthy. My people. People don't wear infections on their forehead. Someone can be well-dressed, successful, professional, beautiful, handsome, and have absolutely no symptoms. Many sexually transmitted infections can exist for months, sometimes years, without obvious signs. That's why appearance can never replace communication. The condom conversation. Now, let's address the complaint. Because I know somebody listening is saying, Lady Divine, those things ruin the mood. Do they? Or does responsibility ruin fantasy? Think about that. We wear seatbelts, not because we expect an accident, but because life happens. We insure our homes, not because we hope they'll burn down, but because we prepare. We save money, not because we expect hardship, but because we understand life is unpredictable. So why would we protect everything we own except our own bodies? Gentlemen, can Lady Divine speak to you for just a minute? Brothers, confidence is attractive. Experience is attractive. Kindness, very attractive. Making a woman laugh, extremely attractive. Respecting her boundaries, now that's downright sexy. But do you know what's not attractive? Rolling your eyes when she asks about protection, making her feel guilty for wanting to protect both of you, calling her paranoid or saying, don't you trust me? Brother, trust doesn't replace biology. Even married couples sometimes discover things they never expected. Life is complicated. People make mistakes. People have histories. The goal isn't judgment. The goal is protection.
A message to the ladies. Now, ladies, your turn. Stop apologizing for having standards. I don't care how handsome he is, how much money he has, whether he drives a Mercedes, a bicycle, or a donkey. Never allow anyone to negotiate your self-respect. Because once someone realizes you'll compromise your boundaries, they'll continue testing them. Healthy relationships begin with healthy boundaries. If someone truly cares about you, they won't be offended by your desire to stay healthy. Matter of fact, they'll appreciate it. The real question. Sometimes I wonder, are people really afraid of condoms, or are they afraid of difficult conversations? Because asking someone about testing, about exclusivity, about honesty, requires vulnerability. It requires courage. And courage is uncomfortable. But uncomfortable conversations today
Can prevent devastating conversations tomorrow. Allow me to share a story with you, my loves. Years ago, I met an elderly couple. They had been married almost 50 years. I asked the husband, "What is the secret?" He smiled, looked at his wife, and said something I'll never forget. He said, "I spent 50 years protecting her heart, not controlling her, not changing her, not owning her, protecting her." Then she smiled, reached over, and held his hand. She said, "And he never made me choose between my dignity and his desires." I thought, my God, that's love. Not perfection, not expensive gifts, not social media pictures, just two people who respected each other for half a century. That is what mature love should look like. Before we take another break, I want everyone listening to think about this question. Does the person you're dating make you feel safer or more anxious?
Because love should bring peace, not constant worrying. Respect should never have to be negotiated. And protection should never be mistaken for rejection. Because after the break, we will hear a man point of view, are sharing their thoughts. And trust me, some of these opinions are going to surprise you. My beautiful people, tonight we've shared a conversation that so many of us have needed for a very long time. We've talked about mature love, respect, boundaries, and why protecting your heart and your health should never be something you apologize for. But this conversation isn't over. Next week, we're going to hear the other side of the story. What do mature men really think about dating after 50? How do they feel about protection, trust, respect, and intimacy? Will their perspective surprise us? Will it challenge us? Or will it help us understand one another a little better? Join me next week as we continue this important conversation. Until then, remember, never allow your desire to be loved to become greater than your desire to be respected. I'm Lady Divine. Thank you for joining me inside the forbidden glass of wine. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and never be afraid to speak the truth. Good night, and God bless. Now, before we go, remember, our conversation doesn't end here. Next week, we'll continue exploring the aging diva and the aging macho man. Can mature love still be safe, sexy, and respectful? As we hear the men's perspective, you won't want to miss it. Join me every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on 92.3 Liberty FM St. Lucia, Liberty TV, Channel 119 on Flow, and streaming on Apple TV, Fire TV, Android TV, and Google Play. I'm Lady Divine. Thank you for joining me inside the forbidden glass of wine. Until next Wednesday, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and always remember, love should never cost you your peace. Good night, and God bless. Until next week, my beautiful people.
Raise your glass to healing. Raise your glass to boundaries. Raise your glass to women who remembered who they are. Until next Wednesday, may your heart never settle for less than it deserves. I'm Lady Divine. Good night.